And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Back in 2004, Ticket to Ride came out, and it ended up winning the Spiel des Jahres. Since then, I think it sold over 3 million copies. Well, now fast forward to today, 2014, and we're looking at the humongous Ticket to Ride 10th anniversary. I can barely fit the box in the frame. It just came out here in June of 2014, and it's a deluxe edition with the large board, awesome custom trains. Let's take a look. I'm going to show you not how to play Ticket to Ride, but how this compares to the original version. Let's take a look and see if I think it's worth it. This will not be a how-to-play overview of Ticket to Ride. This is just going to be a comparison of the 10th anniversary and comparing it back to the original version. Now, the box itself is actually really huge. The pictures itself and videos don't do it justice. You really have to hold it to get a feeling for how big it is. Here is the original Ticket to Ride box. And if I slide this up so it matches the left and top side, you'll see how much extra large it is on both the bottom side and the side there. And if I just make it there. So it is a lot bigger. It might not look like it in the video, but when you hold it up, it does big, and it is a little bit harder to fit in the shelves. Great, excellent box. Okay, now when we open the box, we have the rules here, which is in many languages. We have the large board. We'll look at this in more detail later. And then here you have tins for all the 6 custom trains, which we'll show you later. We have the ticket cards, we have the train cards, and we have new, larger scoring markers here. Yeah, right there, and that's the box. Now here is the back of the board. It looks really beautiful, and just to see, even when I zoom out, I can't even fit the entire board all the way zoomed out, but it's a cool, nice touch to have this on the back of the board. Now here's the front of the board. Again, the video probably doesn't do this thing justice about how really large it really is. Let's take a closer look. And taking a closer look, we see the nice 10th anniversary edition there. And as you look through, unlike the normal Ticket to Ride board, this has quite a lot of detail in between the cities, like a donkey and a person there getting some probably gold, and maybe some churches in Salt Lake City and a Zeppelin. Just really cool details. Look at that. Some water over there, and eagles and condors and Helena, and then we have some biplanes. There's just some really cool artwork on the board here in the details. Now in comparison, now the original Ticket to Ride board always felt pretty big for me on my table, and it looked great. But in comparison, now you look at how gray this is in the background, and wow, it looks so plain compared to the new board. And you might be saying, wow, it doesn't look that much bigger than the old board, but it really is when it's out on the table and it's there. In fact, it's 50% bigger. Let's take a look. If we were to slide this thing and even it up there and take a closer look, it's over 4 inches in this direction larger, and then in this direction it's also about 7 inches longer. And so if you do the math itself, it is over 50% bigger than the old board. Now one of the trains are really cool here. We have each of them come in their own tin. So the green player is now the Hobo Caboose Central, the black player is the Black Powder Railroad, and the red player is the Circus Railway. The blue is the Metropolitan Rapid Transit, and now the yellow is the Dutch Flat Barrel Company. Now here in close-up, we can see the difference between the old trains and the new trains there, from green to black. And look at the black one, is like a coal baron there. The red is my favorite. We actually have a circus with the giraffe's head sticking out. I'll get a close-up shot there in just a moment. And the blues, we just see the difference there, and the yellows. And here's just another look coming back. And maybe we could take a closer look at that circus there. It looks really cool. Okay, here we have a bunch of the different cards. These are the train cards that come with the original Ticket to Ride base game. They're the smaller tickets, showing you what the back looks like, what a wild looks like, and maybe 2 of the colors. There was an expansion called 1910, and this was essentially put them into playing card sizes, which were easier to handle, easier to shuffle. This is what the backs of those looked like. This was a separate expansion for the base game, and essentially just made them bigger, but they were exactly the same artwork. Now the Ticket to Ride 10th Anniversary Edition, these are the backs of those cards. They're the same cards basically as the 1910 size, but the artwork's different. You can see the wild looks different, it has a gold train with the wild here. These have different cool little icons on them. They just look a lot different and they look a lot nicer. And if we take a closer look, you can just see a little bit more detail in the cards there on the newer cards. I've done the same here for the ticket cards. Here was the base game backside. This is what the tickets look like, the small ones. This was the 1910 expansion to the base game, which made them bigger, but kept them pretty much form and function the same. They look a little, this is where they started drawing the roots here. And then we have the 10th anniversary edition up here, which again is the same size as the 1910, but it's a little done up nicer. There's a 10th anniversary sign in the top, and it's a little bit more colorful, just like the map is. And of course, then we have the Trans-America Express, which is the 10 bonus card. On the opposite side, there is the Globetrotter bonus, which is the most tickets, gets 15 points. This was originally in the 1910 expansion. I'm not sure why they put this on one card. I'll talk about that in my final thing. So you can play that on this version. So that's the difference in the tickets. And the final thing I'll be showing you are basically the 8 different colored cards from the new version, just so you can get a sense. The coolest ones being obviously the golden, the wild, the pink one we saw earlier, the black one. And my favorite is the blue one that has little Days of Wonder cards on them. All right, well, there's the 10th anniversary edition. So what do I think? Is it worth it? Well, I'm a huge Ticket to Ride fan. So it was a no-brainer for me to buy this thing. I pre-ordered it. The minute I saw it at the Gamma Trade Show, I got to touch and hold the pieces, see what the board looked like. I pre-ordered it that weekend. I've been dying for this thing to come here, and I am excited that I got it, and I definitely am happy that I made the purchase. The board, gosh, you can't speak of the beauty of the board. The trains are really cool. It's just, when you play the game and it's all set up, we usually always take pictures of the map when it's done. It just looks kind of cool in the regular game. But now doing it with all these cool custom looking trains and stuff, having the big full-size cars, it's just, I really enjoy it. For anybody that enjoys Ticket to Ride so much that they're even thinking about buying this, probably just get it. Because it's one of those things, it's like, hey, it's a 10th anniversary, it's a special edition, it's not going to be around forever. If you're a big fan, you're probably going to get this no matter what I say anyway. So, you know, obviously I really liked it, and those are the reasons why. I love it. So what are some of the things that I think they missed the mark on? And then I'll talk about some things that they maybe could have done that made it even better. So what did they miss the mark on? Well, this includes the card size and the extra train cards that had come with the 1910 expansion for the base Ticket to Ride. Now, if you're a Ticket to Ride player and they're thinking about this version, but there's some people that didn't even know there was an expansion for it. So essentially there's extra cards, extra tickets, lots of them for the 1910 version, and they're the full-size cards. Well, this also brings all those tickets in here. The thing that they overlooked was in the rules, it makes no mention of the different rules that's played with the 1910. For example, there's 3 different ways to play that. You can play the Classic, you can play the 1910, you can play the big cities, you can play the mega cities, putting them all together. And there's different amount of train cards that you deal out at the beginning of the game, how many you have to keep, and then when you get tickets later, there's a different amount that you take. For example, with all the train cards in there, the mega game, you deal out 5 at the beginning, you gotta keep 3. That's different from the base game. It makes it very different. And then when you pick up tickets, you pick up 4 and you have to keep at least 1. Again, it sounds like a small detail difference, but when you play the game, it's huge because with that, you get 15 points for the most tickets by the Globetrotter bonus. And that brings me to the next overlook. They have the Globetrotter bonus and the 10-point longest train bonus on the same card. To me, it's not that big a difference because I never use that card anyways. We just count up the score. But to have the Globetrotter there and not even mention it in the rules, it's definitely overlooked by Days of Wonder to not put any of the 1910 rules in there because they're going to play it like the base game and it's not going to feel the same when you're trying to go for those tickets of the Globetrotter bonus. So overlook there on that one. One more overlook is the brown cars that are really cool, the barrels, they're the yellow player. And after the first couple games, you get used to looking at brown trains and moving the yellow marker, but for a while it's like when you're in a fast-paced moving game, it takes a while to think about it. They should have just made that color brown to match the trains. Sure, there's a little yellow spot, stripe on the cars, but it's not as often. And I know yellow was in the first game and they didn't probably want to deviate from those colors. They should have made it brown, just a little overlook. Things that they might have done differently that could have even made it even better. Now I realize obviously Ticket to Ride Europe did not come out in 2004, so it's not its 10th anniversary. They're probably going to come out with a special one for that. They could have absolutely knocked this thing out of the park. I showed you the beautiful backside of the board. It had 10th anniversary on it. They could have easily have made that the Europe map. You got the trains and added the 1912 expansion, which is the same as the 1910, but for the Europe game, and maybe bumped it up a few dollars, but you would have had both versions in this beautiful thing. That would have been knocking it out of the park. But they didn't do that. They had some overlooks, but what do I think? I still love it. I can look through these little minor details that that could have been fixed or might have been. I can sit there all day and think of what might have been. But what I can say is that I'm so happy I have this. I pull this thing out. We have a blast with it. I've opened more new people to the board gaming hobby from Ticket to Ride than any other game in my collection combined. I love it to death. I love that you can play it simply with family. I love it that you can play cutthroat with people that have memorized all the routes and will block you to death. That's why I love this game. This is a great version. I'm glad I have it in the collection. It was worth the $70 that I paid on Cool Stuff Inc., our sponsor. So if you're a fan, you're probably going to get it anyway. Continue to get it, but be aware, if you're not aware of the 1910 expansion, the rules aren't there. You'll have to look them online. Some little caveats there, but great collection. I'm so glad I got it. 10th anniversary.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.